and welcome to the Stepping Into Your Calling podcast. It is time to ask yourself the questions you've been avoiding. Am I good enough? Why do I feel so sad? Am I doing everything I can do? Do they hate me? Is there something better for me out there? Whether you're a single woman trying to live a more joyful life, a married woman struggling in your relationship, or a mother trying to be the best parent you can be, this is the podcast for you. The Stepping Into Your Calling podcast is a live workshop style health and fitness podcast packed with actionable steps that will help you live a more fulfilling life. Host Sol Lagunas brings her knowledge as a registered nurse, mother of 3 children, wife, student, and faith-based leader to inspire you to step into your calling without fear. Hello and welcome back to the Stepping Into Your Calling podcast. This is Sol Lagunas, and I am ecstatic to share with you that I've launched a podcast series that consists of 5 episodes plus 2 bonus episodes. So in this series, we're going to be talking all things purpose, all things faith, all things relationships and parenting. I am ecstatic to share this project with a great friend, Erika Silva. If you don't follow Erika, please go onto Instagram. Her handle is at erica.k.silva. Get your pen, get your paper, and as always, this is for educational purposes only. Take what you need and leave what you don't. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to the Stepping Into Your Calling podcast. I am your host, Sol, and I'm here with
Erika?
and we're going to be talking about emotional immaturity. And I love this topic. I feel like it has a lot to do with like generational trauma, generational curses, and I'm all about breaking barriers when it comes to what we were brought up into, because it's difficult to break the barriers, but when you do it feels so good to move forward with life because you feel more like joyful, happier, and just all around it's a better experience even for your kids and your kids.
Absolutely, yes.
So emotional immaturity, we're going to talk about like what it is. We're going to talk about how to deal with someone who's emotionally immature and the signs of someone who's emotionally immature. And it can be our partners or it can be our direct family. So like our parents or our siblings even. And I think that's where the generational trauma comes from, because an emotionally immature person has trauma that they have not dealt with in a healthy way. Like they have let those traumas form who they are today, and we see like narcissist tendencies
Hmm.
where the person is self-centered. But I want to go over just really quick some of the signs of an emotionally immature person. So emotionally immature people are controlling, they're narrow-minded, they're unreliable and demanding. They're also they also use shame and guilt to make the other person feel less than they are. And they're inconsiderate of your feelings. They never put themselves in your shoes. They refuse to do that. I mean, that's kind of like I could tell you right off the bat. Like I know so many people like that. And I've encountered them so many times that I'm like, okay, I could totally tell that you have something that is running your personality. An event, a situation, something is going on in your personal life. Have
Yes.
you ever dealt with someone who's emotionally immature, Erica?
Oh, yes. And something that, as you were reading, going over the list, is so funny. So, but you were describing me how I was in the
Oh
past.
my gosh, no.
Yes. Something that was very interested to now that I see it from the other side is that I never saw myself as that because when you are so caught up in your world, like you don't see it. You don't
Uh
see it.
huh.
And but also that's making me feel have compassion because for me I feel that that's something that it was a learning behavior so
Yeah.
that I picked up from family. So now now that we're having this conversation, I'm able to feel happy that I was able to recognize that I needed to break that because again,
Mm-hmm.
most of the time if it passes down through the generations. So I am so grateful that I was able to recognize that I needed to make changes. But now that we're talking about it, I feel more compassion towards those people because, especially if we're talking about parents, like they are stuck in their own ways, and they don't know how to get out of it. I don't know if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have no idea. They just like believe that that's the way that they are, and they have to accept it.
And that's the thing. Like we don't have to accept anything, right?
Hmm. But now our generation sees it that way. And we're able
Yes.
to recognize it because now we have, more self awareness. But for example, if you are dealing with a parent or with an older person, like it is so hard for them to even acknowledge or recognize that they are wrong.
Yes, it is very hard. And I have a personal experience where I had to have a difficult conversation with my mom
Hmm.
regarding a situation that happened where I felt extremely hurt. And maybe you are the type of person that has those feelings. And if you don't discuss it or if you don't like nip it in the butt, you're going to live with those feelings and they're going to turn into resentment.
Yes,
Resentment towards the people that you're supposed to be loving, right?
absolutely.
And we're taught that we have to love our parents unconditionally, but I also feel like as an adult, there has to be a reciprocal relationship where the parent understands and empathizes with the child as well as the child empathizing with the parents. And unfortunately, we live in an era, and if you're coming from a different background, and it doesn't have to be a Latino background, but you don't have to live with that. And unfortunately, like I was saying, we have parents that are emotionally immature and they're not able to completely understand where you're coming from. Like they're just not going to. And it's like that old saying, like you cannot teach an old dog new tricks.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, at the age that they're in right now, all we could do is just have those difficult conversations with them, because I don't think that they're going to change the way that they believe or behave. Like they're already grown adults, they've gone through life, they've experienced it. Some of them have worked through their traumas, some of them have not. And that's like the reality of the fact. And so instead of choosing to continuously fight with that immaturity, we can accept them for who they are and just
Mhm.
have those conversations, have those boundaries, and just continue to love them the way that they are. Even if it does not benefit us directly, but it's going to benefit the next generation. It's going to benefit our kids, and like Erica said, like she felt like she had emotionally immature tendencies, but thank God you realized that, you had to work through that. And the people that are going to benefit is for sure you and for your kids.
Yes. And yeah, I mean, that was the reason why I started to really focus on that, because I felt a responsibility. I'm like, if I don't put in the work, my kids are going to struggle with this. I mean, I'm just going to pass this down to them, and I don't want them to go through the same struggles that I am going through. So that's the reason why I decided to start working on myself, on healing, and just
Mm-hmm.
going over so many things that have, shape in a bad way my personality. But something that you mentioned that I loved is that we just have to learn how to accept, our parents or the person that you're struggling with. But that doesn't mean that we have to allow them to hurt us. I think
Right.
it's very important for us to, yes, have compassion, accept the way that they are. But something that we have to learn is how to take care of ourselves when we are around. How do we set
Mm-hmm.
boundaries? How can we, because I learned to just accept them, but also like don't take their words, or because before I used to take everything so personal. So
Yeah.
we kind of have to like relearn. Okay, where is this information coming from? Do I take it seriously? Do I take it personal? So that's where we learn how to take care of of ourselves, and kind of not allowed them to hurt us with their words or with their actions, because if we have that awareness, it's not going to affect us as much. I don't know
Right.
if that makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense. And you brought up a good point because those are the three things that are very important when it comes to dealing with someone who's emotionally immature is not feeling guilty for taking care of yourself or putting yourself first or setting those boundaries to protect your energy. Do not feel guilty. Second is taking their words as lightly as possible. Like, try not to get offended by their emotionally immature statements because that's what they are. They have trauma they haven't dealt with. And all they could do is scream and yell at you for the things that they don't see in themselves or the imperfections that they see in everyone else but themselves.
That's
So try to take their words like a light grain of salt. And lastly, lead the conversation. So, like I was telling you, having those difficult conversations with your parents or whomever it is that you're dealing with that are emotionally immature are so important when it comes to protecting yourself, protecting your feelings, your energy, and not allowing that to get you or make you feel inferior because obviously you're not. If you're in a room and you look around, based on the conversations that are going around, you can kind of tell like who is self-centered, who is not listening or being empathetic to your feelings, and so on and so forth. And it's true, Erica. Sometimes it's not our parents that we're dealing with who are emotionally immature. Sometimes it's our partner, like the person that we believe that we love and want to create a family with. And for sure, I would not like condemn their behavior and say accept them for who they are and love them unconditionally because that's another completely different situation when
Yes.
you're living with a partner who's emotionally immature. and they have narcissistic tendencies, they are going to really hurt you emotionally. And that is something and somewhere where you do not want to be. Have you dealt with an emotionally immature partner before?
I mean, I think in marriage, I think we all come with a little bit of baggage, or again, things that we learn from our parents. So yes, of course, like there's I have those bad traits, and my husband might have picked up some bad traits from his family. And absolutely, but at the end of the day, I think the best thing that we could do is um, learn how to, again, self awareness, and learn how to communicate. I think that when you learn how to sit down and say, hey, listen, and this is what I'm noticing, this is what I feel, how can we together change this? Like, how can we make it better? And
Mm-hmm.
just having those hard conversations, like, can we talk about, if we continue doing this, like how can that hurt our relationship,
Mm-hmm.
versus if we sit down and we get uncomfortable talking about, okay, well, this is a behavior that you probably learned from your parents. Like, I get it, I can blame you because I have those too, but for the sake of our marriage, for the sake of the kids also, like, can we fix them? How can we become better? And I think the only way that things get better is through communication, learning how to say, hey, this is wrong, not wrong, but having a voice and being able
Mm-hmm.
to communicate in a healthy way too. Because if you're gonna be screaming or communicating aggressively, then that defeats the purpose. But I think communication definitely has helped me to deal with, again, breaking generational traumas, generational things that we have been working together as a couple. But yes, I have dealt with that. Sometimes I just tell my husband, thank God that I am no longer the person I was, because there's things that happen to us. There's things that we carry around, and you said it in perfectly at the beginning. Once you start cutting those traumas or that generational things, you just see things with a different light. You feel free. You feel light, and
Mm-hmm.
you are able to live life with more joy and peace when you stop focusing so much on everybody else. What are they doing? What are they not doing? This, like, they should be doing this.
I think it's wonderful that we've both been in relationships, or we are in relationships where we've grown as a couple, because I was very toxic too, and he was too. And, we
Mhm.
can go on and on of our toxic tendencies and the things that we used to be. But it was through having those uncomfortable conversations, the ones that where you're like, okay, bro, like, tell me the truth.
Yeah.
Like, I'm ready. I could hear you, and I'm going to understand you, and I'm going to try to put myself in your shoes, but you have to do it too. Like, it's not
Hmm.
going to just be me. It's not going to just be you. I'm willing to try if you're willing to try.
Yes.
And if you're in a relationship where it has remained unchanged for 10 years, then ask yourself, where are you going to be in another 10 years? Like, really put that into perspective, because when someone's emotionally immature and they don't see it, and they refuse to learn how to work through their traumas, you don't want to be there. That's not you're not going to be the reason why that person gets fixed. You're not.
Yes, yes, and oftentimes we think that we could fix them. Or
Mhm.
I have seen women who they just feel like, okay, well, now I have a kid and I am married, and that's just the way that it is gonna be for the rest of my life. And that is very sad too, because if you're in a relationship like that, I just want you to know that you deserve to have a happy life,
Mhm.
a joyful life, to wake up and feel just happy. Don't feel like you have to stay in a relationship just because of your kids.
Yeah.
I think we all deserve to have peace in our life. And if your relationship is not giving you peace and joy and happiness, then that could be a red flag. We feel like we have to stay in relationships because that's just the way that it is. But we have the power. You have
Mhm.
the power to create the life that you want by your choices.
But you do have that decision. You do, it is your choice, right? Life is about choices. You can choose to be this way or in this place, or you can choose to be somewhere else. And don't feel guilty for moving on
Yes.
from that situation.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ways to deal with someone who's emotionally immature. You just remove yourself from that situation if you know that person is not going to change or not going to try. And when we talk about traumas, I don't want you to think like there had been like a massive earthquake trauma. It could be as little as, your mom overstepping your boundaries that you have
Mhm.
set for your kids, or your family not showing up for you because they don't feel good about themselves,
Mhm.
so they're not going to be there for you.
Yeah.
Things like that.
It
it,
doesn't
it
have to
doesn't have to
be,
be crazy.
yes. It could be like in my case, I know that when I moved from Mexico to here, I never saw it as a trauma, but that has been one of the biggest traumas of my life. And it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until I started to ask like really hard questions. Why do I feel like this? Why do I think about this? And once I started digging in, that was the reason. That move was the reason that shaped a lot of the ways my mindset. So I had to, but once you recognize where it comes from, you could start making changes and like reprogramming your mind.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be like something crazy.
And I think moving from, like, as a child, moving from country to country is an adjustment. It's a huge adjustment, I couldn't, even now with the kids growing up, we were like, we need to find a house before the kids start going to school, because I don't want to be the family who moves every year to a different school because our lease is expired, or the living conditions around our neighborhood are not good, or whatever the case was, because I feel like even moving from school to school, that's a traumatic event for the child,
Yeah,
because they need to learn how to readjust, and certain things are not the same.
yeah.
And we all just went through a pandemic. That's something that we have to all readjust to, you
Oh
know?
yes. Yeah.
I know we kind of went a little like to the side with our emotional immaturity conversation, but I think those are very important, because adjustments and traumas and curses can shape who you are, and you would either become an emotionally immature person or a mature person. So those are the reasons why we talk about these things, is because they do shape who we are, and they change the trajectory of how we behave and our personalities and our characteristics. But all in all, I think emotionally immature people, they do have trauma that they need to go through and resolve on their own. And you don't have to feel like the person, or feel accountable for the person's behavior, because it's not geared towards you. It's not in response to the things that you do. It's their own traumas.
Mhm. And then there's some people that they're okay with the way they're living, so they are never going to do anything about it. And that is
Mm-hmm.
okay too. We need to accept it. We need to accept that there's going to be people in our lives who are just never going to change, and that's okay. That's okay. But in those cases, then that's when you really have to focus on how to take care of yourself, how to set those boundaries.
It is a touchy subject, but for sure, like, don't feel guilty about, setting up those boundaries. Like, really do not. You're not the problem. You are not the problem. Yeah, emotional immaturity doesn't have to be just trauma events or traumatic events. It can be also like mental health. Let's talk about mental health and emotional immaturity, because I feel like people who suffer from depression or anxiety do have a lot of self-doubt. They feel like their actions affect every single aspect of their life. So they're always living under that pressure, and that's where that anxiety comes from, like not knowing and not understanding the things that are happening around them. Depression, on the other hand, is well, I have dealt, like, I have personally dealt with depression. And instead of me talking down to the other person, like emotionally immature people do, I was talking down to myself. I was telling myself, you're not worthy to be the parent of Papito. You're not worthy of getting up from this bed. You're not worthy of getting into the shower. It's like, though, when you hear it from an outsider, you're like, how can you not want to, like, do those things, right? How can you not want to get out of bed or shower or eat? But living it has given me such a different perspective of, like, man, it does get you like that. It does put you so low that you don't even want to open your eyes. But in hindsight, we realizing that I had a choice, right? I had a choice to lay in that bed, not get up, not eat, not shower, not wake up. I had a choice. And when dealt with those choices in front of me, I 1000% would pick to take care of myself all over again, just to know that I was going to go through that season and end up stronger at the other end.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see how mental health could affect your emotional state when it comes to being mature or immature.
I mean,
Okay.
I think you nailed it right there.
Okay, well, Erica, thank you so much for being here. And as always, don't forget to rate and review the podcast. Follow us on social media. I will leave our handles in the description box of this podcast episode. But thank you so much for being here, and we will see you in the next episode.
Thank you guys. See you soon.
Bye. I am so happy you just finished listening to that podcast. If you don't mind, after this is done, go and rate the podcast. That's the only way more people are going to be able to get reached, more knowledge is going to be spread, and more lives are going to be changed. So if you don't mind doing that favor for me, I would appreciate you. I already appreciate you for listening to this podcast. I love you so much. Thank you for being such a great person and super supportive. I cannot wait for you to listen to the next one. Till then, have a good day.